I've never done this before, so you guys got to bear with me here. Reading through the three readings that we had today, that Barth read and I also read the gospel, the theme is that I got from reading them is the light of God. In all three of our readings today, we have seen some of God's transformative light. And it is Transformation Sunday, and that's dealing with Jesus being transformed in front of the disciples. In the readings in Exodus, Moses was transformed by God into a holy man. Moses' face was shining because God saw him, not because Moses saw God. In our gospel in Luke, the light of God is shining through Jesus because Jesus is God. Jesus has taken three of his disciples, Peter, James, and John, up to the mountain to pray. While Jesus is praying, his appearance changes. Suddenly, the disciples see Jesus with Moses and Elijah. And then what happens is they were talking, and Jesus was talking to them about his departure that was going to come. They did hear that. They couldn't hear all of those things being said, but being they had all been there all night and were sleepy, while they were sleepy, Peter sleepily said that they would make dwellings for all three of them, for Jesus, for Moses, and for Elijah. What we have to understand is that Peter, because he was sleepy, he didn't understand what he even said. He just, matter-of-factly, just said it. But God knew what he said. So then God sent the cloud and terrified them. And then immediately God said, "This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him." From that point on, the disciples perceived Jesus differently. Granted, he was, all in white and, sparkling white. But now they see him as the true Son of God. God's light has transformed Jesus before the three disciples' eyes. Now, it also says in the gospel that they didn't speak to anybody about this, because in those days, if he would have, they probably would have thought they were in a nutcase or something, so that's kind of the explanation there. When we go on to Corinthians, the reading, Paul talks about the veil that Moses wore to shield the Israelites from being overwhelmed by God's glory. Paul also talks later in other readings about the veil that there was in the temple. And that veil was to separate people from God. The only ones that were allowed back there, Moses was, and so forth, people were there, but basically the holy ones. But by Jesus dying on the cross for our sins, all of these veils were removed. So if you see Christ, you're no longer separated from God's light. God's light is shining on each of us here today while we're worshiping him. So the main thing we need to remember in everything we do, no matter what it is, that when we go out there, that we let God's light shine within us, which is hard to do, but so that people can see that we are God's people and the light is burning within us. No matter who we come into contact for the rest of the day, or even the week, let us go out and radiate God's light that's within us. And that's what I get from the readings today. Short.